Weatherlight, the 11th Magic expansion and the third set in the Mirage block. It kicked off the Weatherlight Saga, a story initiative like Magic had never seen before. Cooked up by Mark Rosewater and colleague Michael Ryan, it was what many dubbed the Grand Experiment, involving a variety of media, including comics, novels, and even new products spanning many years and over a dozen Magic set releases. Telling the epic story of Gerard Capuchin and his brave crew, the hero's journey would enter Magic form as a great villain has arisen, unspeakable injustice is happening, and good must conquer evil once and for all. After the preceding events in the prequel sets of Urza's Saga block, the stage was set for an epic tale. While Mirage and Visions were very much linked sets in artwork, tone, and mechanics, Weatherlight was drastically different. It was meant to be a graveyard-focused set and had no new named mechanics. It included previously designed mechanics like phasing, cumulative upkeep, and banding. It differed so much from Mirage and Visions, as Weatherlight was meant to be a jumping-off point for the Weatherlight Saga, one that would soon turn into the Wrath cycle and ultimately culminating years later in Invasion block. We left off at Urza's Destiny, where Gerard joined Sisay's crew aboard the Weatherlight to adventure throughout Dominaria. But soon Gerard realized that Sisay knew all about the legacy, his role in it, and was trying to gather all the pieces in order to construct the perfect weapon to kill the Lord of the Wastes, also known as Yawgmoth. Reluctant, he followed Sisay's lead, collecting pieces of the legacy. Krovax of Windgrace plays a very important part in the Weatherlight Saga. Originally from the island of Urborg and the noble Windgrace family, as a rich noble who didn't get along with his parents, he spent his time with his family's protector, an angel named Selenia. She was bound to an amulet, one that Krovax always kept with him. He quickly grew to love her, though she did not, or perhaps could not, do the same. When Krovax first left to join the Weatherlight crew, he took the amulet with him. Later, Krovax and crew heard of two unstoppable beasts attacking Urborg. Racing home, he found his family's lands were decimated by two Phyrexian agents, Morinfin and Gallowbraid. No other homes or lands were touched. Locked into battle, the first casualty was Gerard's close childhood friend Rofellos. In desperation, Krovax unleashed Selenia, who defeated the Phyrexians. In the aftermath, Krovax blamed himself, as he left his family vulnerable to attack because he wanted to keep Selenia with him. In an attempt to make amends, he chose to remain in Urborg in an effort to restore his family's heritage. Gerard also left the Weatherlight soon after, traumatized by the death of Rofellos, breaking the heart of his love interest Hannah, and leaving Sisay to look over the Thran Tome for ancestral knowledge in hopes of finding all the pieces of the legacy by herself. Sisay soon learned where she might find a piece of the legacy, leading her to Stark, a self-serving fugitive from the Plane of Wrath. He quickly betrays Sisay's trust, leading her to abduction in hopes that Evankar Volrath, the current ruler of Wrath and the brother of Gerard, would release his captive daughter. Volrath knew that abducting Sisay would lead to Gerard coming to find her, and instead of releasing Stark's daughter, he tasked the mercenary Maraxus of Keld to kill Stark immediately. Back on the Weatherlight, no one knew of Stark's involvement in the kidnapping, only that Sisay's abductor is an Evankar of Wrath. This included the first mate Tongarth, a proud minotaur who is very much the Worf of the crew who acts before he thinks. Orym, the ship's healer, and Hannah, its navigator, who was also the daughter of Baron, Master Wizard. All of them set out for Benalia to find Gerard. Through the help of a Benalish missionary, the crew find Gerard as the Master at Arms. While reluctant, Gerard's wisdom prevails, and he agrees to help rescue Sisay. But it wouldn't be easy. The Thran engine inside the Weatherlight can only plane shift when a skilled wizard reads an imprint of someone on board who has been to the destination plane. They didn't have a wizard, or someone who had visited or been imprinted with the Plane of Wrath who could take them there. Gerard suggests that Mirri, the cat warrior and his best friend, may be able to help. She was trained in magic alongside him by their Obi-Wan Kenobi-esque mentor, Multani Maro Sorcerer. They quickly set off for the Llanowar forest, where Mirri embraced nature's kiss at the tombstone of her dead kin. On their way there, Gerard spent some time in the lower holds of the Weatherlight. He found a huge standing artifact there, a beam that had been powered off. It was Karn. His childhood guardian was back and had been on board the Weatherlight the entire time. He quickly consulted the Thran Tome, a book that told each person something different when they read it, to discover how to power up Karn once again. He was successful, and another important member of the crew, the Gentle Giant, was added. Arriving in Llanowar, atop the redwood treefolk, Gerard and Squee looked across the forests for signs of Mirri. No crew was without its comic relief, and Squee was that for the Weatherlight. The Goblin Nabob had a toy and sort of a silly charm, and would later grow to have many cards named after him. Leaving the treefolk, Squee answers the call of the wild with a scouting expedition through the forest. Meanwhile, Gerard, Hannah, and Tahngarth are spotted by Llanowar druids, who lead them to Mirri. The cat warrior was revitalized by the magic of Llanowar, and though she was excited to hear that Gerard was finally embracing his destiny, she knew of a great threat that had to be stopped: the Aberoth. The giant earth elemental had killed many of Mirri's friends and was threatening to strike again. Gerard understood and had an idea. Using a piece of the legacy, the Thran Forge, he powered up the Aberoth to the horror of the elves, but he also turned it into an artifact creature, something that was actually mechanically represented on the card's abilities. And Gerard then used another piece of the legacy, the Touchstone, to neutralize the Aberoth, again mechanically represented in both cards and story. Having destroyed the Aberoth, Mirri and Gerard set sail. Mirri was excited to be back with Gerard, but admitted she wasn't powerful enough of a wizard to actually use any of its instruments. It was then Hannah spoke up that she knew someone who was powerful enough to operate the Weatherlight, her estranged father, Baron. They headed to Teleria, where the wild Avizoa live. Baron, who was far too busy to adventure around the multiverse, would send his apprentice, a brash, arrogant wizard by the name of Urtai, in his place. After Urtai joined the crew, they set off for Urborg in hopes that Krovax had been to Wrath or could help them find somebody who had. In the time since Krovax had left the Weatherlight, he had made some very unfortunate choices. The angel that protected his family, Selenia, did not love him no matter how hard he tried. In desperation, he destroyed the amulet that bound her to him, and instead of loving him back, she immediately fled to parts unknown, leaving Krovax behind. He had unknowingly cursed himself to a life of misery, destined to destroy all that he loved. In search of Selenia, Krovax learned of a man named Stark of Wrath who might know her whereabouts. Krovax finds him, and Stark tells him Selenia may be in Wrath. Stark also reminds Krovax that Valrath once tricked him into abandoning his family once and may be doing so again. Krovax quickly returns home. Later, Stark catches up with him, now on the run from a deadly mercenary named Maraxus. Maraxus worked for Valrath and was hunting Stark. Unwilling to hide him, Krovax sends Stark to a hiding place in the desert, at the home of a friend. Back in Urborg, after making their way past the Abyssal Gatekeeper, Gerard and crew find Krovax living in the haunting misery of the shattered crypt that holds his dead family. He quickly accepts the invitation to join the Weatherlight, but admits he has never been to Wrath, but he knows someone who has, in the form of Stark. Traveling to Bogarden, a quick spying expedition confirms that Maraxus is holding Stark. Gerard arranges a rescue, sending himself, Krovax, and Tahngarth into Maraxus' camp to free him. It doesn't go as planned, however, and the heroes are forced to flee with Stark in tow to the nearby mountains. Maraxus gives chase, with his sawtooth ogres and lava hounds right behind. Finally, Gerard and his team are cornered into a box canyon, but the Weatherlight arrives, driving the enemy away and leaving only Maraxus himself to challenge Gerard. When Stark reveals the secret of Maraxus' strength, that he draws power from the presence of others, Gerard first wonders how Stark knew that, but secondly sends the ship and crew away so he can face the warlord alone. A fierce battle begins, but soon Gerard is the clear winner. But just before Maraxus can explain what he's done with Sisay, Stark comes out of hiding. Instead of leaving with the others, he stayed behind, and before Maraxus can expose him as a traitor, pulls off a desperate gambit and stabs the Keldon warlord in the back, killing him. As Gerard and Stark wait for the Weatherlight to return, a debt of loyalty is established as Gerard begins to trust the traitorous Stark. The man who engineered Sisay's abduction then explained that his daughter had been taken by Volrath, and that he'll help get the ship to Wrath and Volrath's stronghold if Gerard will help rescue her. He agrees, and with that, the crew is finally in place. Gerard, Mirri, Krovax, Tongarth, Hannah, Urtai, Karn, Squee, Orem, and Stark must make their way to Wrath, where the Wrath cycle begins and the Tempest is just beginning to build. Join us next time as we discuss the impact of Weatherlight, cards that still perplex players to this day, cards that broke the rules just after their debut, and a little snake who changed control decks forever. Thanks for watching. Did you enjoy this episode? Help me make more over at Patreon. Patrons get to see the show before anyone else, get their name in the credits, and ultimately this show does not exist without it. So head on over to Patreon and I'll see you guys there.